Hey YouTube, Morfien back with another Genshin Impact video. Today we'll be discussing Xiao, but first I'd like to take a second to thank my Uncle Pondy for letting us use his account to make this video. We're too broke of a bitch to afford every character Miyoho puts out, so I really appreciate it. Hopefully amongst all the friends and family I have enough of an inventory to do each and every character for Genshin. But anyways, let's talk about Xiao. Start off talking about Xiao. We're going to cover all of his skills, talents, and constellations as we will with each and every character. Starting off with his regular skill, which is Lemnistatic. Jesus, that is a fucking name. Lemnistatic wind cycling, which is basically Xiao lunges forward, dealing animo damage to opponents in his path. Can be used in mid-air, starts with 2 charges, can gain more via constellations. Pretty basic skill, nothing fancy about it. Now, what really makes Xiao a powerhouse is his burst, which if we bring up here, it's called Bane of All Evil. Basically, he dons the Adepti mask and increases his jumping ability, which he can jump about 6 times as high as any other character. Increases his attack, AoE, and damage, and converts his damage into animo damage, which cannot be overwritten by any other elemental infusion. The other thing to note is that it has a duration of 15 seconds and a cooldown of 18 seconds, so you have a near 100% uptime there, but it does have an energy cost of 70, which is honestly rather high. The maximum is 80, I believe. So 70 only being a step down from that. This might be the first ultimate with 70 energy costs. Someone will pop in and tell me I'm wrong, but 70 is fairly uncommon. Moving on to talents, Conqueror of Evil, Tamer of Demons. This is unlocked at his first ascension, and well under the effects of Bane of All Evil, all damage dealt by Xiao is increased by 5%, damage increases by a further 5% for every 3 seconds this ability persists. Maximum damage bonus of 25%. So basically, the longer you're in ult, the more damage you deal. Excuse me. And then his second talent, unlocked at level 70, I believe, is Dissolution Eon Heavenfall. And this causes Lemnistatic wind cycling to increase the damage of subsequent Lemnistatic wind cyclings by 15%. Lasts for 7 seconds, has a maximum of 3 stacks. Gaining a new stack refreshes the duration. So overall, pretty good. Makes his E do way more damage. Moving on to constellations, and as you see in this Xiao, we do have Constellation 1 unlocked, which basically adds a 3rd charge to your Lemnistatic, God, I'm tired of saying that already, wind cycling ability. Constellation 2 is when Xiao is in the party but not on the field, so not your active character. Xiao's energy recharge is increased by 25%. Weird, interesting. I will say energy recharge is like maybe the one weakness Xiao has. You have a hard time generating energy while you're in ultimate, which is kind of unique for most of the characters in this game. Usually you don't have that issue. Constellation 3, as usual, increases your skill level by 3 and maximum level 15. Constellation 4, when Xiao falls below 50% HP, he gains 100% defense. Honestly, kind of weird and useless. I guess the thoughts on this one is make him tankier if he does happen to fall below HP, because his burst rather drains HP as it goes on. It's not that aggressive though. I don't know. The C4 is really underwhelming in my opinion. C5 increases the level of Bane of All Evil by 3, maximum level 15, standard. C6. Now this one, as usual with the C6, is pretty nutty. Well under the effect of Bane of All Evil, hitting at least 2 opponents with Xiao's plunging attack will immediately grant him 1 charge of Lemnistatic wind cycling. Holy shit. I'm so tired of reading this ability name. And for the next 1 second, he may use Lemnistatic wind cycling, ignoring its CD. So basically, when you use your crash down, you can E for free while also granting a charge if you didn't already have 3 charges. Basically, C6 means you have unlimited ease. So that's basically it for the skills, talents, and constellation section. Next, we'll be moving on to weapons. Alright, to start off the weapons section, we'll go over the 3 free-to-play options, and unfortunately, in the case of Xiao, none of these options are particularly great, but there is a fairly cheap option that's pretty good that we'll talk about later. Starting off with the Crescent Pike, which normally would be a great option, but in the case of Xiao, he does a lot of animo-based damage, and with a physical secondary stat, already not very attractive. But then the other thing worth noting is Xiao does not generate a whole bunch. It's almost like when he's in his ultimate, he can't generate elemental particles. I don't know if that's the thing. I've noticed it. It's just he does not gain a lot of energy while in his ultimate. I'm not sure he could even proc this if he wanted to. Well in ult. So for all those reasons combined, Crescent Pike, not a great option. Second option, prototype Star Glitter. This one, honestly, of the 3, is probably the best pure free-to-play option. The energy recharge secondary, well, you wouldn't think is great right away, is actually okay on Xiao. After using an elemental skill, increases normal attack and charge attack damage by 8% for 2 seconds, max 2 stacks. Obviously, with Xiao, especially a C1 Xiao, like in this case, you will never have any issues keeping that up. I would expect it to have 100% uptime. So again, not the best option, but not a poor option. The dragon next, moving on to the Dragonspire Spear. This one, honestly, it's going to have the same issues that the Crescent Pike has, but even worse almost. Its physical damage it has a higher physical damage value, which we didn't care about in the first place, and obviously we don't care about having more of it. And then the special ability of proccing an icicle that deals AoE attack damage, like, it's not worthless, but it's also not great. So, of the 3, that would be my last choice. Moving on to other semi-free-to-play-ish options, we have the Black Cliff Pole, which honestly is probably, I put it at like second of the free-to-play or 4-star, maybe 4 stars in general. The secondary of crit damage is pretty good, and then the passive ability of anytime you defeat an enemy, increase the attack by 12% for 30 seconds, stacking 3 times. As long as you have plenty of enemies to kill, that's actually a great effect. And then last, for the 4 stars that I'm going to talk about, we have the Death Match, which this would probably be my #1 choice. It has that secondary crit rate, which is so hard to get, so hard to find. You always want more of it, so having it on your weapon is fabulous. And then its ability is, if you have at least 2 opponents nearby, increase attack by 16% and defense by 16%. If there are less than 2 enemies nearby, increase attack by 24%. So either way, you're getting 16% attack, but potential of 24% attack. Defense, whatever, I don't know if you really care about it, but it's there. The main thing on that one is the crit secondary. And then obviously, real quick, just to cover the 5-star options, we have the Primordial Jade Wing Spear, which notice right away it has that crit rate secondary, which is always wonderful. And then its ability is on hit, increase attack by 3.2% for 6 seconds, max 7 stacks, can occur once every 3.3 seconds, and while in possession of maximum stacks, damage increased by 12%. Jesus, that's a mouthful. Suffice to say, it increases your damage by a lot if you're out on the field for any amount of time, which if you are Xiao, it'll be at maximum stacks. And then lastly, the Skyward Spine, which, I mean, if you have 1 5-star spear and it happens to be the Skyward Spine, go ahead and put it on Xiao. You won't be unhappy, but you'd really much rather have the Primordial Jade Wing Spear. But it does have the energy recharge secondary, which is not worthless for Xiao. It's not worthless, so don't immediately throw it away for that. And then its special ability is increase crit rate by 8%, increase normal attack speed by 12%. Additionally, normal and charged attacks hits on opponents have a 15% chance to create a vacuum blade that deals 40% damage in a small AoE. It's very similar to the Versus Hunt, if I understand correctly. Unfortunately, I don't have either of these weapons on this account or any account. But like I said in the beginning, if you only have one 5-star option, it's probably still better than the 4-star options. Anyways, next we'll move on to artifact sets, and then artifacts followed by team comps. Comes to artifact sets, I think the first set everybody will want to talk about is the Viridescent Veneer set. And I mean, if we're being honest, I think only the 2-piece is worthwhile when it comes to Xiao. The 4-piece is nice, especially for the increased swirl damage by 60%, but realistically, when it comes to Xiao's toolkit, the swirl damage is not actually happening that often. You're not getting that big of a boost out of it, and any, it's going to have diminishing returns with any elemental mastery you do have as well. And then when it comes to the secondary effect of the 4-piece, again, Xiao is a entirely selfish unit, so he doesn't really care about lowering the enemy's electro resistance or cryo resistance or pyro resistance or anything like that. He doesn't care about that. And if he did, or if you do, you're more likely to want to run this on your other Anemo support anyways. So, like I said, I would focus more on the 2-piece when it comes to Xiao, and then follow that up with most likely a Gladiator's 2-piece for the 18% attack as well. Honestly, that's about it when it comes to Xiao's artifact sets. I think he's a pretty simple character. He doesn't have a whole lot of options. There's just not a whole lot of options available to him right now. But that also makes it easier in a way, because it will be easier to put some dope artifacts on him. Off the team comp section, I think the first thing to talk about, and I definitely won't be the first or last person to say that Xiao is a hard stuck main DPS unit. Definitely not intended to be a support like a Official or a Xingqiu. So with that in mind, you'll generally want him at the lead of your party with some kind of healer, some kind of battery. This is very important for Xiao because he has a hard time generating elemental energy on his own. So in this party, for example, we have the Sucrose here to basically generate energy so that Xiao can be an ultimate more often. A very obvious change that you can make to this party would be to swap a gene out for Sucrose, and then that would free you up to swap the Barbara out for another support DPS like Fischl, for example. Now obviously on this account we don't have that as an option, but generally that's the kind of group that you are looking to put together for your Xiao. Xiao is the main DPS, at least some sort of healing, especially because on Xiao your ultimate costs health as you are in it. So you're looking at least, if you do a full ultimate, you're looking at taking at least 45% of your maximum health and damage. So you'll definitely need a healer, and then you'll just want supports, especially high energy generating supports, because Xiao, as mentioned earlier in the video, has a not insignificant amount of difficulty generating energy on his own. Showcase for Xiao was slightly more challenging in this scenario because it is a lower level account, and there's still a lot of things I'd like to gather to truly show him off properly. So fairly limited apologies. We might revisit this one down the road, but I did want to just take a second to discuss artifacts for Xiao, and it's fairly basic. You are looking for the three, the Holy Trinity: attack, crit rate, crit damage. Past that, you would like energy recharge, if at all possible. And then if you have three of the four, four of the four, if you have four of the four, you're happy. But distant fifth would be that elemental mastery. Alright, y'all, well, that's my time. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Questions, comments, or concerns, please leave them down below. And as always, don't forget to check me out on Twitch. We'll see you in the next one.